5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sync. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 240 of the TTV podcast. I'm Meso.
I'm Prpl.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Ben.
I'm
And I'm Tenebrae Invictus.
I like a half committed, half denied.
We know who are the real professionals in this podcast right now. After that, I feel
The real profession.
me.
I can't believe it.
Jokes so our audience isn't back.
I was just trying to have some
Eating my
decent.
back cake. I'll be back in a sec.
There's not always an. Did
What?
you what?
Did you just
Just leave him
walk
to get
away
cake.
from the podcast?
Just left to get cake.
Oh, I guess I'll just do the same thing.
I guess if we're just leaving.
All right, well, screw this podcast. I'm gonna be out of here. See you guys later. Bye. Guys.
Gonna get some cake.
Bye.
Next fall.
Just going to get the cake.
Man.
Anyway,
I finally don't sound like I'm coming out of a microwave.
congrats.
What a
You are a
shame.
microwave.
The double mask
How'd you get stuck
strategy
in
did
there in
not
the
pay
first
off.
Just wanted to make a sandwich.
He put on the Ant-Man
Who
suit.
puts a sandwich in a microwave?
And then
puts
somebody
on a
that wants
sandwich?
to
I have.
reheat it.
What are you? Is this a reference to something?
Take
don't know.
one bite of a sandwich, leave it out for 4
Prpl,
hours.
don't
put
you
it in the
understand?
microwave.
How
We're
about
not
you
intelligent
take
enough to
the
make references to
sandwich
things.
and put it somewhere else?
Is that a reference?
Your
Yes,
face
that
is
is
a
a
reference.
reference.
To what?
That is a reference.
To garbage.
ouch.
Oh,
You're like researching about garbage and like the reference link is purple.
First option on Google is Prpl's face.
It's like Harvard referencing Purple's face.
Wow, I see.
Wow,
how
this
it
one's
is.
perfect.
You look down the Wikipedia links.
Yeah, dictionary under
hyperlink.
garbage. Image.
Prpl.
garbage.
It's got accent at the top. So change it. Garbage.
Garbage.
It's even grosser than normal garbage.
Prentice 1215 from our live studio audience says, speaking of garbage, how about that Justice League?
Oh yeah, it was
I
full
haven't
of
seen it
purple.
yet.
Just purple everywhere.
Dang.
Bad news.
The posters
Bad
look
news
garbage
bears.
though.
Bad news bears.
Legitimately, I thought it was a really good trailer, and it made me immediately believe the movie will be nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah, because Suicide
Man, it
Squad.
just looks like it'll be an okay movie. Like nothing
I thought
special.
the trailer was very meh.
I have
It was
literally
a good
no
trailer.
interest.
It's like, what if you paid for a movie, like Beauty and the Beast just to watch Justice League trailer, then leave? Like, that was the movie. That's the movie I'm going to go watch.
People used to do that back before the internet was around. One of the reasons Titanic
Really?
had such a huge box office return is that it was attached to the Phantom Menace trailer, and you couldn't really watch a Phantom Menace trailer either. And a lot of people would go buy tickets to Titanic, watch a trailer, and then leave. A lot of nerds did that.
Wow.
The trailer
Then
for
again, I bet
episode 1
cinema
was super
tickets
high.
weren't as expensive
Such a waste
back
of
then.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that's the thing with the
you gotta
Justice
think-
League trailer.
Tickets probably weren't as
Sorry.
expensive back then, too.
And Star Wars was
'Cause,
gone for
I
how
think-
long?
I had a lot of
Pretty
older
long.
people tell me that it used to be, like, cheaper.
I mean,
The
they.
thing with the Justice League trailer was like, I feel like I got the whole movie from that trailer. Batman's funny, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are cool, Flash is kind of awkward, and Cyborg looks terrible. Superman's gone, but I also feel like I'm not going to gain anything from him showing up.
We're not going to
And
miss
they're
Henry
fighting
Cavill
generic-
in any shape or
They're
form.
fighting generic alien robots, so I
Well.
feel like I got the whole movie in a bite-sized package.
Henry Cavill looking sad in every shot.
He'll still be in
I saw a trailer that was like, they did the little like, hey, the prepare for the Justice League coming out in like 3 days, and like
Yeah.
little short trailers.
watch.
There's one that was like, unite the League, and it's just a picture of Superman's tomb.
You-
Like every time it cuts, he's just like super dead.
Unite
nothing
the
else.
league, except for that guy.
It was
Except for that guy.
it's to
You
the point
watch,
where it's
though.
like he was so like angsty. It was like I could imagine his grave having written on it saying "finally."
No, I
Or,
can
like,
imagine
happy.
it saying,
I'm
"Leave me
finally
like
happy.
this."
Leave me alone.
Then when then they'll inevitably bring him back in the movie, and then he's gonna say, "Why? Why did you bring me back?
Bring me back.
I liked it down there." He's gonna jump back into his tomb.
Nice.
Incredible.
That's the end of the
Don't wake
movie.
me up.
Enough damage has been done to my career.
I'm waking
Don't wake me up.
Don't wake me up. That's how edgy he is. He doesn't want to be woken
Same.
up.
Oh my god, please don't wake me up.
You think he
Ever.
like emerges
So
from the
annoying.
rubble and goes, "Wake me up."
As someone who's actually had to wake Prpl up, it's not a happy sight.
Not a
Sight.
What do you mean sight?
Yeah,
Why
she
are
looks
you
Okay,
horrible.
Yeah,
This-
I can.
This
I
is
so
from
freaking
casual
ugly. I open a
conversation
dimension.
to how did you break into her house?
I open a dimension into Purple's room just to wake her up.
Oh my gosh.
Am I
Sometimes
too
it's the only
soon?
way to wake her up.
Am I too
I mean,
soon?
listen, we
No,
already
no,
Too
established.
soon.
No, it's.
Oh man.
I'm sorry, guys.
We
but
already
it's
established it's not a
slowly-
pretty sight. You have to go take out the trash every now and then. It's just garbage.
Oh,
You're taking her out on a date?
it's-
Take out the trash?
ugh.
Take out the trash
Wow.
into the garbage can.
It's a sad state, but
snap.
the hole I ripped in this dimension is like slowly sucking
The
everything
what in
into
this
it.
dimension?
Purple, at least you have a day dedicated to you every week.
Yeah, Purple Day.
Garbage day?
We've got Green Day.
Oh, ouch. That's
We've got Green Day, but where's Purple Day?
Oh my god.
good grief.
This is already my
Alright.
favorite episode.
Speaking of garbage, we should talk about Bionicle. Am I right?
Can we talk about some of the? Can we talk about some of the people that we're talking about Bionicle?
Not yet. Not yet. Let's pace ourselves.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I'd just like to say
Whoa,
discussions
just take
like
it easy,
these,
man.
discussions like these every week that we have, they're very fun. Our
just
G3
joshing
projects
ya.
are very enjoyable. If you want to be a part of our whole process, consider pledging to our Patreon at patreon.com/the TTV channel, and you can become part of our live studio audience. You get to contribute cool ideas, post memes and images live during the podcast, and just generally have a fun time. You can watch the podcast a whole 2-3 days early, depending on your perspective. Really, it's 1 to 2 days, I guess. 1 to 2 days early. Regardless, it's quite awesome. You should consider checking it out. We also got a lot of other cool perks as well. And if you want to be part of our ongoing discussion about Bionicle G3 and everything, you can post in the comments or check out our message boards at board.tvchannel.com. Wow, they're continuing to post funny images. That one's going in the video.
You have to put that in the video.
That's great.
Most definitely, that's from... That's great. All right.
Doesn't
Yeah, sorry. That's hilarious. All right, so before we talk about our subjects for this week, I think it's important that we address some comments from our G3 project.
I think it's just a
Multiple different types of comments. First and foremost, what is it?
Well, okay,
Because I've been
let's.
seeing an increasing amount of comments
Well,
from people.
See,
Watching
Lego
the
has
podcast.
officially
Let's make this
contracted us
clear,
to
right?
write their
They
hit
aren't
new
particularly either they just join midway through the discussion or they only listen to part of the episode, or they're just generally not someone who watches every one of our podcasts, and they're perplexed by this whole Bionicle G3 thing. So before we talk about anything else, let's just say it's not official.
Well, the whole thing came out of a conversation I started like a couple months ago. They were just like, hey, because we were talking about G2 and how much we're like, man, you know, they did all this stuff wrong. And I'm like, all right, guys, if we were doing G3, how would we do it better? And that's it. That's the start of his discussion on the podcast. And it starts this whole thing that
It's
kind
an
of snowballed.
experiment. It is
Right.
a hypothetical experiment. Because we were like, we're always criticizing G2. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's design our own Bionicle reboot. Over time, it has morphed into this whole system Bionicle thing. But initially, it was just about making Bionicle G3. You know, we weren't married. It was probably just going to be construction done again. But eventually, the project has grown and morphed. The important part is it's hypothetical.
The important thing is it's all for the podcast. It's a discussion thing for us to say, hey, we talk, like we basically, you know, we talk about what G2 did wrong and what G1 did wrong and what they did right all the time.
What if
Let's
we were
see-
in their
Yeah,
positions
like
this
let's
time?
put ourselves in their shoes. Let's see how hard it is to create something from scratch. Let's see how hard it is to
Yep.
deal with fan receptions when people aren't really like super receptive to all your ideas and whatever.
So when we talk about character concepts, it's artwork that we have drawn or that fans have drawn. When we talk about set design concepts, it's about set mock-ups that we have made, not official sets.
Nothing
And
about
when we
this
talk
is
about
official.
story, it's about our own plot and our own storyline that we are mapping out.
This is never going to be like, you know, an official thing that Lego picks up either. Lego's not going to come to us and be like, hey, so we saw your podcast and that's really cool. Let's throw a bunch of money at it. That's never going to happen. But it is. I do think
dream.
it is like some interesting for us and for other people too. Lego does do research before they bring anything back. That's what they did with Bionicle. Before they brought it back, a lot of the designers went. They listened to they actually listened to a lot of fan input. BZ Power was consulted beforehand, and we know that some of the marketing people for G2 listened to the podcast beforehand. We were told that at the Comic-Con. So part of this is just to maybe, if people are researching, if they're looking into bringing Bionicle back, maybe there is room to bring it back as a system theme. Maybe there is room to do some.
That's my hope, is that one day, if they ever do bring it back, they'll look around on the internet and they'll stumble across this project and they'll be like, maybe System Bionicle could work.
Right, maybe
All
just like some ideas have been picked up, that the same that we're doing of community ideas, where we're like picking and choosing certain things and like saying this could make sense or this inspires us to do this other thing. Hopefully Lego does that with a lot of stuff. Maybe they'll do it maybe later on, maybe they won't. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is for us and the fandom to say, hey, we do this. This is how hard it is for us. This is how hard it is for you guys. This way we don't judge people on the Bionicle team, because people are giving the Bionicle team a lot of flack after G2.
Yeah,
that's too much. That's undeserved, really. They didn't do anything wrong. They wanted to make it as great as we did. You just have to deal with corporate. You have to deal with fan reception. There's a lot of stuff that you deal with.
The one benefit to our project is we are our own corporate. So.
Right. We're transparent in that regard.
We're also just kind of waiting for Bill Gates to come up and say, "Here, I'm gonna fund
Here's
this."
a cash infusion.
Here's
Yeah,
$1 million.
yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Do your own thing.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Here's a great comment here from I'm Your Gingerberry. Liwa means male in Maori. Only people
There
who
you
watched
go.
the last couple will get that.
Well, yeah. Again.
Alright.
The one thing we take out of this, if the one thing we take out is someone's like, man, I feel a lot better about the Bionicle team. It's a lot harder than I thought. We've completed.
That's all we
That's
want.
our goal. That's it. That's what we
Or
wanna
somebody
do.
looks at the podcast and is like, hey, System Bionicle, this looks pretty neat. I want to make a mod.
Yeah,
or
exactly,
something.
right.
That's basically that's the point we're trying to get to with this
Inspire
whole
people
project.
to be creative. It's part of
Inspire people to kind of lean towards the idea of a much more different Bionicle.
Exactly, because it can still be cool and it can still be, interesting. It doesn't just because it's changed doesn't mean it's bad. That's what we're getting at here. Speaking of change, that was the first type of comment that we would just like to address to clear the air, clear some confusion.
Uh-oh.
The second chain. I don't even really know where to start with this. Recently, we've had a lot of discussion topics. We've had a lot of polls. We've been trying to aggregate community feedback about mainly the last podcast, but also the overarching issue. Because the topic we discussed last week was possibly changing the genders of some of the characters, and we basically decided at the end of it, it's canon that Liwa will be female in our G3. And possibly Voriki too later down the line. We haven't committed 100%, but probably. And we had a topic on the message boards to get feedback about that, and then we also have the live studio audience giving feedback about that. And we've gotten a lot of comments, some insightful and some not so much on the podcast comments. We would like to address it. We'd like to open the
Yeah.
floor, and we'd like to clear up a lot of...
Oh,
Message,
boy,
did
here
you
we go.
say aggregate or agitate? Because a lot of people
Maybe
seem
both.
fairly agitated.
Hey,
A lot of people are very agitated.
let's get out of the way.
This is-
Not a community project. Don't know where that came out, or it was like a thing where like this is
yeah.
Well,
it's a
explain
joint. Now,
context.
wait, for
Explain
context.
the context behind that
Some
comment.
some people seem to have gotten the idea that this whole BrickOnicle project is a community project. It's not.
Now, it is something that we value the community input. That's why we have the forum. That's why we value their input in the comments. We read almost every pitch and thing that's done. The artwork,
But it
has
isn't
influences.
founded upon all that. We allow
It is
that
not.
stuff to influence some
It
of the
was
ideas.
founded literally as a podcast project.
Right.
Like,
On the
we're out
podcast,
of
it's
news-
discussion.
We're out of news. We can't continue to talk about nothing every week or complain about G2. Let's do something constructive on the podcast. And we like to incorporate the community because they are our window into opinions that we might not share. They're the window into insightful realizations we might not have. But at the end of the day, the final say is ours.
Someone
because it's a
posted.
podcast show.
Someone posted this video of George Lucas and the development of episode 3, where he they have all the concept artists, and he goes in and he's picking what he wants Grievous to be, and he's like, I like this design, I like that design, I don't like this. There's too much element of that, etc., etc., etc. And that's essentially what we've been doing. That's essentially our role in this kind of project. We're doing a lot of art and development and stuff by ourselves through the discussion here to give you guys an insight to what that is. We also take input from other people in the community who are kind of like the designers, like the concept artists or the graphic designers in that sense. That does not mean that we necessarily have to listen to what the polls say, which we don't. It doesn't mean that like if a lot of people don't want something to happen or vocal about something not happening, that we're not going to do it.
There's a little bit of a difference between a poll and a vote. We're not holding a vote. We are.
Yeah, I guess for some reason when
polls.
when those polls were posted, some people were under the assumption that the majority vote was going to win. I guess the decision and be put into canon. That was not what the poll was. It was just a gauge where the community was standing on a certain.
I like to look
topic.
at the poll in a sense like the numbers are secondary. People vote en masse. And typically, if there's like a massive lead to one side or whatever, we're able to see, okay, obviously a lot of people share this opinion. Let's find out why. And then we engage in a discussion with those people who posted their thoughts on the topic. And we're either like, okay, that makes sense to us, or no, we disagree. And then we debate it back and forth, see if a consensus can be reached. And if a consensus can't be reached, then we were not convinced to change our minds.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And at that point, it remains our decision. That's kind of how it works.
Right.
It kind of does sound a little harsh, like, oh, the burden falls on the fans to change our mind, but that's why
what it
we
is.
have the
Right.
poll.
Pretty
It's about,
much.
like, sometimes we might not think of everything, sometimes we might be wrong, and we get that topic to see if we are, basically.
And
Exactly.
just
Like,
because
unsure.
you may present some big argument, something that has a lot of substance to it, doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good one. Because a lot of people were like,
Yeah, I think a lot of people seem to think that just a word count means good argument.
It does
Yeah, it's
not.
like,
Trust me, I've
no,
learned that
like,
Of course,
very
it also
there's-
doesn't
it
mean
doesn't.
it also doesn't mean that you're 100% wrong or that you can't have your opinion. It just means we might not share it, and we're the decision makers at the end of the day. So
I bet somebody wrote an essay on why it was a good idea to let Zack Snyder direct Batman v Superman. Was that a good idea in the end? No.
yeah, no.
Yeah,
So,
no.
there was just, I think there was a lot of misunderstanding as to what the project was and how it would be handled and everything. I'm not really sure exactly where that opinion developed, because I feel like it's been pretty clear what the project was, but even still, there was some miscommunication there.
I guess
A
like
lot
in
of
that
this
sense,
stemmed from the gender debate topic
Oh my god.
from last
Yes.
week,
a lot of it
That
too,
was the
like
biggest-
which
is
lasted
a
way
larger-
longer than it needed to.
a larger thing too was that like people felt that the community input wasn't being well heard, which is on two fronts. One, I feel like we do point out in almost every episode stuff that we've taken from the community, stuff that we're like, oh, I read this comment, I read this, and we put it all together. For instance, the stuff about the regions being tied to the elements, that was a thing suggested by a fan. Obviously the Pahatu,
Yep.
the element
YouTube
debate,
comments.
but there's tons of other stuff too that's kind of like been shaped by the audience and stuff. So we are listening. On the flip
Toa
side, though,
designs entirely shaped
Right.
by community. We aggregated them all together, made our own spin, and boom, here we go.
exactly, and that's where we started everything. Flip side too, there's some people saying, well, it feels like the only people you listen to are, and this is an actual quote from somebody, are good artists or good writers, and the answer to that is yes. We only listen to things that are
we don't
good.
want to listen to
We tend
bad
pay attention
artists
to
or
the good
bad
things,
writers.
right?
Now-
It's like, I don't know why you're like, we're not handing out participation trophies here, all right? It's like sometimes people suggest stuff and we're like, yeah, that's not good, and we're not going to like blast you publicly in the forums for it or anything, but we're also not going to spend
We
time
just
with the
might
podcast
not
talking about it.
incorporate that idea.
Right.
That's all it means.
Now,
So, yeah, look-
to clarify, that doesn't mean that you should stop trying. Please
No,
continue to
definitely.
make stuff,
Exactly.
continue to work on it and develop it, and eventually make it to a point where we do want to incorporate it. However, that doesn't necessarily mean we will.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we're going to spend
It
time
all
talking
comes
about
back
it.
again.
No,
it's
if you have
important
an
to keep the
idea-
distinction. It's
If you have an
Yeah,
idea that you want to matter, I guess, just do it. Well, put some time into it. Do your best to make it work. Make it work.
Yeah.
If it's a piece of art,
And even then,
do
it
your
still
best
might
to make it
not
look
work.
good.
That's just kind of
Yeah.
how it happens with
There's
design.
two things to keep in mind. Number one is what we already spoke about. It's not a community project; it's ours. So at the end of the day, you if you can't convince us, it might not become canon in our G3. The second thing to keep in mind is that our G3 isn't actually happening.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So it might not be a community project, but like if you just really want to convince us of something, and like you just can't do it, you have your great idea, and we're not going to do it. That's the beauty of community. Why not do your own thing? It's not gonna like. Yours isn't any more valid than ours.
It's not gonna matter about anything. We're not doing it.
We're making a video about it. That's all.
It's kind of funny though, because we on the podcast the decision was made to make Liwa female in Generation 3, and there were people who were way more upset about that than I was. Now, don't get me wrong, my opinion hasn't changed. I think Liwa should totally still be a dude in G3 because I'm selfish. But there
were some oddly passionate people.
Like the quotes being thrown around, it felt wrong. No, absolutely not.
Let's also clarify for people who weren't here last episode, Eljay. You want necessarily Liwa to be male so you can voice Liwa. That's like your own personal thing. Right.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean,
but like reasoning.
Right, exactly. I want to make sure that reason out there is
don't
clear.
get me wrong.
Not just because it felt right to you.
Do keep in mind, I do have logical reasons and logical arguments as to why I think that should be the case. Now, that being said, my favorite iteration of Liwa is in 2001, and that hasn't changed from anything we've talked about. Like this, he's not retroactively female in 2001. So that my favorite iteration, intact. It's not a big deal.
Well,
our project does not change the Bionicle that existed prior.
It's not even official.
Spin. It's not even actually happening.
Yeah, it's like that. I saw some people saying, "Well, you should just develop this in secret." And then put on the thing so you wouldn't have to deal with all the controversies. Like one part of the thing is that we want to deal with these fan reactions as they come. That's part of why we're doing it. Two, it's literally just a show. It's not going to be. We're not going to make these sets. We're not going to make these we're not going to sell anything. Lego's not going to do anything with it. This is literally for discussion purposes for us.
Like, we're not one of those big ambitious projects that's going to produce system sets and sell them to you. We're not actually going to make a Bionicle TV show.
Right.
This is, for all intents and purposes, a podcast show, and that is where it will probably end. We might do something in the future where we have a story publish
I could see us making a story.
Yeah, I could make a story or doing something like
an audiobook series or something.
I mean,
but
if
that's
fans,
about where it will go, the end limit,
If someone came up to us and was like, "Hey, I know how to make Flash games. Do you let's make a BrickFeed game?" We're not going to be like, "Oh, absolutely not." That's we're not going to table anything for now, but we're also that's not on a table at all for us.
Exactly.
We're not going to table.
It's not on the table.
That's great.
I'm a table.
Can we also talk about how that topic ended? Because it was hilarious.
Yes.
Okay.
Greatest ending ever.
Then just abruptly just ended it. Shut up.
Ben was just done. We were all done. We were just sitting in this thing all day.
I mean, the topic should have been closed anyway. So
it's just
It was spiraling
we reached
out
the
of
end of our
control,
thing.
and we were like, how do we close this down for the podcast? And everyone's just shut up, and then just ended.
Very
Unlocked
simple,
it 7 times.
it was so funny.
It's very simple. You just sometimes you gotta know when to shut up. I mean, it is what it is.
No hard feelings. We just had to shut it down. And
No hard feelings. Just wanted you to shut up. I mean, damn.
Yeah. So,
all right.
I mean, that's basically it. We could go on. We could drum up all these comments, but that's really the gist of it.
That's essentially it.
The points have been covered. Basically, if you oppose our ideas, that's A-okay. That's the beauty
Get
of
out of
opinions.
here. No.
If you want to put the time into debating us to try to change our mind, that's A-okay as well. Just make sure you're actually informed.
Make sure you listen to the podcast.
Make sure you
actually listen to it.
That's another thing that I feel that should be touched on very quickly. If you're going to argue this entire pitch on the merits of our pitch, you need to listen to the podcast and put the time
pitch
into
is
it. It's
in
called
the
research.
Podcast. You're going to argue about the podcast without listening to the podcast. What are you doing?
I don't know.
That was one of the stupidest
that
things.
That was so dumb.
I can't hold back. That one was really dumb.
It's one thing to have an opinion,
right?
And that you don't have to watch the podcast to have an opinion. But if you actively want to go out of your way to debate us
on the merits of our ideas that were presented on the
hopes
podcast,
of trying to get us to change our mind,
something we already confirmed we were doing. By the way,
that's a problem. You know that's
it was
yeah.
It was something that like we were already doing, and someone said they already said they're going to do this in the podcast. He's like, "Well, I shouldn't be expected to listen to the podcast or how many hours of content."
I
Yeah,
should
you
pick
should.
it up based on what
we
you
are
inferred from
100%
like what you
officially.
posted.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
You
Don't,
know,
like-
there's a problem when people
come on.
think it's okay to argue against something that they won't even listen to.
Right, exactly, right? Come on.
If you
So there
can't
you
listen
go.
to the
That's
other
the-
side of the debate, don't debate. Get out of here.
Basically.
Shut up.
That is the short version. Just if you want to have an opinion, you don't have to do anything. If you want to debate, be informed. And if you still are disappointed at the end of the day, if you can't change your mind, don't be too heartbroken. There's no need to get irate. It's not
all in
actually
good fun.
happening.
Yeah.
Wait,
it's
what
all
irate
just
means
an
for the
idea.
guys who wouldn't know.
it's-
Irate means angry, passionately enraged,
Irritated.
Okay,
irritated.
no.
Do you not know how to use
Translation.
Google Purple?
What does irate
Well,
mean? Because I don't know.
lazy. Yeah.
To be fair, some people don't even
That-
listen to the podcast, so you think they're going to look up the word after listening to this?
That's
Yeah,
all.
I
Let's
don't.
be real
Basically,
here.
Don't
all
be
that time
irate
you
at
might
the
want
end
to
of the
put
debate.
into futilely trying to change our mind about something. Why not develop your own G3 pitch? Yours is no
Right.
more valid than we are. Than ours is, rather. Not we are.
No, we're more valid than you
Meso
are.
doesn't know how to
Confirmed.
word today.
I don't know how to English.
Oh,
No,
hold
Bio-
on, Leslie. I don't know if I can
Sounded
subscribe to
racist.
that final comment.
The
All right.
BrickFeed project, the BIONICLE G3 project, as far as I'm concerned, has been a huge success because it did what we set out to do, and that's have a blast on the podcast, talking about stuff, looking at cool art, seeing people inspired by what we do. That's all been awesome for us. So some people are coming around saying, "Well, I don't think it's a success because Leah was a girl now, or my contributions get mentioned." And sorry, that's not the point of this.
Yeah, this isn't a chronicler's convergence where you
No.
just throw a thing at the wall and we post
See what sticks.
And you can
Right.
always just say to yourself, well, hey, it's not canon.
It's
Make your own
absolutely
like
canon
love.
if you
Ma-
wanted
ma-
to.
do your own thing.
Which
you
is
know?
just
like
what we're
love
doing.
between the Toa, am I right?
This whole pitch is headcanon. It doesn't have to be a part
Right.
of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
No, let me say, you inspired by us? By all means, do work, do draw your stuff. We love seeing really
And if
good
you do
stuff
want to
from
join our project and help develop it, that's cool too. You can do whatever you want.
Right, well,
Just
join our project and help develop it are like quote unquote you can join like the how do I say this?
Discussion.
The efforts,
Yeah,
right? And like
all
pitch stuff to
right.
us. Right. But you're
if
can
you
join
want
the
to
chance to
follow
influence
our
us.
project
Right.
and contribute to it.
contribute
Okay.
to it.
Yeah, because
So that's basically that.
I've been doing that basically because I haven't been here enough to really see anything happen apart
Yeah,
from
me
being on
neither.
the podcast and
You gotta finish
seeing
that
all
rock
the
sheet thing.
drawings. Oh yeah, well that was ages ago. I haven't picked that
it.
one up in
Wow.
ages.
Finish it.
Been finishing commissions
Alright.
and stuff.
I think
Right.
We've basically
we've gotten the point across.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now. What time is it? How much has already
What
passed?
time
Okay.
is it? Party
It's
time.
Jiggle time.
About half, a little less than half.
Actually, it's summer. I don't know why I said party time. The song is literally called Summertime.
All right. Now, how about we move on to some new developments, guys? How about
No,
it?
let's go back.
Hey, let's get back into our
Okay.
G3 discussion. Yo, what are we
Yo.
going to
Okay.
do now?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't really done much since last week. We don't really have anything to show.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we
TBH,
really have got
What do we want
a
to?
couple things.
What do you want to start off with? Because everything today is sort of mixed in with each other. But
Do you want to start off with
Well-
the island and the
Start with the
locales,
bay.
then and go into the religion stuff?
start with the
I
island?
think we should talk about philosophy and culture and the ending of the story. Yeah, let's start with the island.
Okay.
Start small, work our way up.
All right.
So, Vin, take it off. You drew this.
I drew what?
The island.
Island.
No, I didn't.
Oh my god.
All right, in that case.
I
In that case, you're
applied my knowledge in art and skill onto a medium,
I don't know about
digital
the
knowledge
language.
or
Drew
skill.
something.
You applied your knowledge of skill of art.
So basically,
Be too-
here's a concept for the new island
Here's the
Of-
dealio.
Artaka.
All right, so let's
Yes.
address that real quick.
Let's introduce you to the island of Artaka.
So here's what we were thinking about. There was discussions before we were talking about calling it Motunui and or Kodo, and the idea kind of came around that because each generation has this different island, we want to be able to, as soon as we talk about the island, kind of that it's referring to our pitch. And we say the island of Artaka, not in the context of G1. There is already a G1 island, of course, but we want to be able to be distinct. In G1, it's Matanui. In G2, it's Okoto. In G3, it's Artaka. And Artaka made the most sense for.
I didn't even know about the.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I guess we were just tired of hearing Matanui. Plus, it was kind of weird because I think we want to use that name for something else, right?
Right. Matanui, the island, has a very distinct style and a very distinct look to it, and we want to be able to have the freedom to do our own thing and not have that be confused for the other Matanui.
Right.
Same thing for.
And then another thing was
Okoto.
we also didn't want two things in our lore to be named Matanui.
Yeah, that was confusing.
Before it was the Great Spirit Matanui. No, wait, it's the island name. And it's it makes sense in context of the lore where it's oh yeah, they named the whole island after the Great Spirit, but from a marketing standpoint, it got confusing. So it would just be.
I have a question. What's up with all these crazy names?
Okay.
So these names would be. Well, go ahead, Eljay.
Yeah, these are actually pre-existing names in Generation 1. You may recognize them as important regions and or landmarks on the former island of Matanui. For instance, Ihu, Mount Ihu from the ice region of Kauai. Motara, based after the Motara Desert in Pauahi. Tiko, Onuahi, and so on and so forth. We've basically done away with the Wahi and Koro concept. And instead named the regions
themselves
like this.
The regions
named
themselves
after
are
these names.
So
Mungai is the region of fire. Neho is the region of water. Ihu, the region of ice, etc.
It's like G2, but if it had an actual name.
Yeah, that sounds way better. I don't know, thingy, having it have Kauahi, Pauahi, Liwahi. It just
Right.
sounded I don't know. Just my opinion, just sounded
too derivative.
samey.
Right. No, totally. We decided to name the regions after pre-existing names. One thing that we decided kind of early on is that we wanted to, as much as we could, use existing names from canon. We didn't want to we don't want to make our own names necessarily. Or we try to avoid that as much as possible. The closest we've come to doing something fan-made is the concept of Variki, which we've kind of roped in. That's not an official name, but it's it has this thing in the lore and canon. That's the only exception we're kind of making.
It has strong community connotations.
Right. The idea is that we don't want to. We want to be restricted in the same sense that Lego would kind of be restricted in the sense, they've trademarked a lot of these names already. They've already got the whole thing down, so we can use these in different contexts. That's why we're using Artaka. That's why we didn't come up with our own name for the island as much as we wanted to, because we felt that'd be a little too far-fetched and too withdrawn from the restrictions that we placed upon ourselves.
Yeah. Quick question. Are we doing away with elemental prefixes? And I believe we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
As in Taga.
Yeah.
We're not going to be using this.
Okay. Those are...
In relation to the Koros, I don't know if what did we decide on when it comes to the Matoran? Are we going to call them Tamatoran, Gamatoran, that kind of thing?
I'm with it all up until the Matoran, because then it starts to sound derivative like G2.
I mean,
Right.
Fire Matoran.
I don't see anything wrong with Fire Matoran and Wind Matoran.
Right. And this said the Matoran are much more similar to each other. Just the powers they have are slightly different, and the armor is colored differently.
Yeah.
But it's not like we refer to everyone as humans. We don't have a.
Right.
So essentially, yes, the prefixes are gone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine we were yes, where we have a Af human and then a Mera human and then we just we segregate people like that.
I mean, we do have African American and
Asian
American.
Right. But we call them the names depending on their region. So we could call it a Mengayan, for example. I think
Gaia.
Yeah. Mataran.
Oh my God! There's actually a Mataran. The Mataran.
Tikonen.
I like that. That's fine with me.
Nahoans. Ihuans.
What's the other one? Kawaii.
Kawains.
Kawaii.
Kawaii.
Hawaiians.
Kauai, it's the tail end of Hanzo's attack.
Tiroans. Yeah, I'm
get
down.
You know what I really like that I can't use anymore? Tohunga. I really like that name.
Tohunga for life.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
cannot.
The name
we
Tohunga.
can't touch that.
I mean, like,
Can't
technically
touch
we
this.
can. Because it was technically copyrighted. Lego just chose not to use it because, you know... The
Signing
Mallory
it.
and the
So
settlement
let's. I don't know if you guys want to go into what these regions are, or like any of that specific details or whatever.
What do you mean?
Have we got that far yet?
Haven't gotten so far as in terms of like what the regions themselves are and how they operate. There's a lot of fan theories on the boards as far as like how their culture would be defined. That's probably something we're going to touch on a bit more next episode, I would think.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll just kind of spot off my ideas then. So Tiro, all these names are based on what ideas we kind of came up with to apply to each of the regions. So Tiro would be for the Earth region, Naho being the water region, etc. You can kind of figure it out yourself just by looking at the map. Except I do want to explain Kauai, or however we want to pronounce that. So as you can see on the map, it kind of looks like there's these bunch of different islands just floating around. But that's the thing; they are supposed to be what I would imagine to be floating islands. This would be the air region, or
Right.
And I got this idea because of I know we tossed it around, but there was actually like concept art that a fan made that I think it showed Liwa in like this floating island region, I guess.
I think,
That
yeah.
Umachu
it was
made?
Umachu's work.
Yeah, it was
which has been very
Umatsu's,
insightful.
right. Yeah, and I thought that looked cool, so I definitely wanted to apply that to the island. Plus, it gives it a bit more distinguishable features, I felt, because otherwise, it is kind of just Motunui again. I mean, I did go off of Motunui's shape, but that could totally be changed up, like with what I did with Kauai. I'm totally down to change up whatever, add more land, take away more land, add more islands, etc. This is just right now. This is just a basic formation, just something for us to get started.
Point.
Yeah, it's a starting point, exactly.
Right.
So-
The idea. Honestly, I'd be up to like really different, like, because we're kind of deciding, we have the names of the regions down, but we haven't like decided on what the map looks like. I'd be down for a very different interpretation. One of the most iconic islands to me besides Motunui is Voyanui, and that's simply because of its shape,
Right.
how unique that is and how it looks. Obviously enough, it doesn't, we don't need to like find that kind of thing, but I like the idea that you see an island and you can immediately tell where it's from and like what it's, how unique it is. So
Yeah, and I thought it'd be a good idea to start with Motunui because it's already familiar to us, and I kind of like the idea of just kind of playing around with what already existed and trying to like change some things to see if, what would make more sense. Like in terms of landscape, I moved around where the desert would be located and where the jungle stuff is. You'll see that this map has a little bit more green on it compared to Motunui, and I think it just makes more sense that way. If you have this island that's surrounded by water, there's sure to be a lot of plant life. Even if you look at the edges of the desert region, you can kind of see a little bit of greenery there. That's because, it kind of makes sense to me.
one thing I also pitched as a method to kind of get around. In Okota, we had mountain ranges separating the regions and everything. They're just kind of like these giant borders, that
Right.
section everything off. In G3, my concept was that there were, instead of mountain ranges, there'd be streams, and they'd be cutting all the way through the island in a sense, and they would enable the villagers to kind of like to travel quickly between them. And the idea was for the Toa, obviously for the first year, we want them to take their time walking around, exploring the island, doing all that. But in year 2 and year 3, whenever the plot is happening and they need to get from Koro to Koro, we thought it'd be like we could give them a way to quickly get from place to place, so they're not, if it takes like 4 days to walk from one Koro to another, for example, we don't want them to like, if a Rachi's attacking an Onikoro and they're not Onikoro, is attacking in like, Ihu. Yeah. If they're like an
Tahu's
Ihu
fire
and
striker,
Naho.
Liwa's jungle climber.
Exactly. I mean, like we'd have to find a way. I thought they should have like a like some sort of boat or some sort of like ship that they ride and
Gecko
take some
bird
places.
fast travel.
They totally did that.
One of the
Starving.
viewers just said Gecko bird, so
Yeah, it's
just
from
like,
Meso and I's
fast
Let's
travel.
Play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Good
not
one.
super sold on a boat or a ship. I know the
Airship.
way that Generation 1 kind of worked around that is, they all searched for the masks, and they all pretty much just got the mask of speed and did it that way. But I feel this is an issue better solved by, storytelling, positioning, and making the island much smaller than Generation 1 had. Because Generation 1's island, as we've very recently discussed, was massive.
It was a little too big.
A little is an understatement, but yeah.
But I'm certainly not opposed with fast travel. It's just a matter of would we want to use that as an excuse to introduce vehicles, or would we want
That's
to
what we're talking
use
about,
that as
right.
an excuse to introduce vehicles, but they're animals?
Honestly, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed, and of course it's just a pitch, concept similar to what Ruby does. In Ruby, whenever they need their weapons, they just hit their smartphone, and their weapons come down in a pod. Well, maybe they can use the canisters
Toa confirmed
in a
to have
similar way.
iPhones.
Right. The canisters. So you're saying that the canisters
They're
are kind of
mobile
thing?
things that can be reprogrammed and
Not
fly around.
I'm not
necessarily
super opposed to that
reprogrammed.
concept. I feel like kind of flies in the face of the tribal aesthetic we're wanting to do. If you have the magic teleporting elevators, essentially
There
that come
could be
down and get
teleporting
to.
Well,
things because
if you
But
have them
I'm
be all
thinking-
mystical or whatever, it could still maintain the whole islandy thing.
Yeah, we could. Well, honestly, it's a thing that
yeah.
I like in terms of Destiny's Bounty is one, but just in general, the concept of having one mobile vehicle and things that people go on, like the Serenity and Firefly, or even the Mass Effect and the Normandy and latest of Tempest. I've always liked that thing where you have you have the one ship and then everyone has their own compartment and it has all the different things going into it, and you kind of have everything compacted, but in one space as headquarters,
Right.
as mobile headquarters.
That's always a
I've
cool
always
thing,
really liked
but
it.
I feel like it would definitely be hard to apply to Bionicle.
Right. Well, I feel like a ship is
thing
within
is
the
you're-
tribal aesthetic, and works within the context of the story. But
I mean, at that same time, the tribal aesthetic, it goes so far as they're. You got to remember, they're still robots that control the elements.
They're still, yeah.
So there is that there's still that disconnect. Additionally, you said that you wanted the boat
We're
so
not
that
savages.
they could get to places quickly. If it's still going to be a big place, it's not going to be as fast as, say, rocketing across the island in a canister.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel
right,
like
but I
the,
mean, you could say that the Toa just teleport because they want to, and that's part of their superpowers. If you want, we can say anything to
we could say
around.
maybe the canisters that are set up in each region act as a personal teleporting device for the Toa, so they can
Are we thinking teleporting? Because I was thinking they fly through the air in the canisters.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
flying in the canisters.
That's the Ruby comparison he was making. They're rocket propelled lockers. The canisters they fall down
so
from
then
the sky
they'll
and then they can rocket back up.
ODST just dropping down
Yes.
action.
Kind of.
Honestly,
ODST.
that does
You hop
sound
in the
pretty
canister,
cool.
you type it in on the pad, and it launches into the sky and
You
flies.
see,
to
the canisters
destination.
falling is another very iconic image, and we don't really have that necessarily since they aren't falling from the sky in canisters.
The Matoran just gather around get ready for Toa fall. Bam! And then the canister comes up. Tahu jumps out.
It's obviously this isn't something they'd have access to right away. Don't get me wrong.
Right, of course.
I just think, it would make
Right,
sense
right.
if they needed to get to
I
just their
wouldn't
village
mind
quickly.
in generation maybe post Generation 3 that was the thing too. In Generation 1 they walk and they kind of explore the island that way. Generation 2 they have a ship. In Generation 3 or not, sorry, I keep saying generation in years. Year 1, Year 2, and then Year 3 they get the canisters and they're able to go. Actually, one of the people in our audience, Ulti, just mentioned that if they could teleport or not teleport, but fly from Suva to Suva, which I actually think might be a manageable idea.
Yeah, I
essentially.
was thinking it would not be because you'd mentioned if there was an issue at the village and they need to be there fast.
Right,
I was only
right,
thinking
right.
the canisters would be able to find a Toa, pick them up, and take them only back to its origin, which would be whichever village they're from.
Suva could work well.
I feel we can incorporate all these ideas into the official thing because I feel like if we give them the canister thing too soon out the gate, it turns into
Again, it would not be right away. Not at
Right,
all.
right.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't give it to them right away, but I do kind of like the idea of them eventually getting the canisters to
Yeah,
travel
no, I like
between
that,
the Suvas.
and actually it ties in with our idea of how the Nexo Knights have their own battle packs, and we're wanting different packs for the Toa in each of the years.
They get their
I want
own
them all connect, so we have the Nuva, we have a Suva in the first one. We have the Nuva symbol in year 2, and then year 3 have the canister.
The Suva's like, and the canister's like, they teleport up, they go to where they need to go, they teleport, they not teleport, they fall down, prepare for Toa fall, and then they dock in the Suvas.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. I like that a lot, actually.
Imagining it.
And we can combine with the
you
idea.
can make a set based off that.
We can combine with the idea of like the if you remember, I guess we didn't see Arrival. In Arrival, they have like these kind of like canister-like things. They're just kind of giant ovals in the sky. But the way they move and the way they fall is almost like, because I don't know, it looks more mystical in that sense. You know what I'm saying? So we could, I could really see that working. We could even combine,
another solution is to make the island much smaller.
Meh. I want it to be smaller than Motonui 1, but I don't want it to be like too small.
Okay, so let's talk about this. How long should it take? We were talking about this a couple nights ago. We tried to make some calculations. How long should it take if you're walking, you're a Toa, how many days should it take you to walk from one end of the island to another? What's a reasonable time that we want to...
I think it should be a journey. I don't think it should be something that they can just decide to do one night and be like, all right, well, we'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not like if you wake up and like, hey,
plan for
let's make a Ihu run. Let's just go.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I think it should definitely be a journey.
I
like
put forward...
like that tiny planet in Rick and Morty.
The tiny planet Rick and Morty?
The tiny planet that the family goes to, and they're trying to find a new planet to live on.
Yeah, right.
Remember just walk around
planet?
the whole planet.
Yeah.
I put forward the idea of 2 weeks.
But...
Rip and Morty.
Takes them.
2 weeks sounded like a good... I would say at least a week.
You said from one end of the island to the other, the absolute tips of the island, 2 weeks.
Right.
By foot.
And how far around should like each main village or main like city in the region be from each other?
I would say at a bare minimum 3 days. Just as a minimum.
We're going in a circle.
No fewer than 3 days away from
like journey.
Village.
Okay.
I think it should take at least a week.
What, for each
To get
village?
from village to village?
Oh, no, from one side of the island to the other.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
At least a week.
At least
That's
a
the
week,
minimum.
maximum 2 weeks. I feel if you go longer than 2 weeks, it's a little too large. But like in between, maybe about 10, 11 days. Maybe 12 to get from one end of the island to another. But if you wanted to go, like if you want to go in a circle and see all of the main villages, which our characters will be doing in the first year, how long do you think that's going to take? The story's going to take place over a year, but like in the realm of the actual story, how much time does it take?
Let me see here. So,
'cause if you remember, everything in Bionicle up until from 2001 to 2008, excluding 2004 and 2005, happened within a year. That's canon. Like there's 1 year, everything happens, and then
Okay, so if I put forward that every village would be a minimum of 3 days apart, taking this into account, doing some quick calculations, that would be roughly 18 days in total. And 2 weeks, the number I put forward between both tips is 14 days. So it'd be 4 days over 2 weeks.
If we had it at 11 days, that makes another week past getting from one tip to another. So to me that kind of makes sense.
Either one is fairly representative. It's in the ballpark of what we're going for.
It's in the realm of
like
possibility. Right, Meso.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know. I think that 18 days. That's about half of a month to go to every single village.
And that's excluding like if you just wanted to sightsee, not if you actually have something to do in each village. So we can kind of have it. I was thinking that the initially like the first part of this story, the year one, takes place at about maybe. We're going to introduce a Toa. We're going to do everything. It spanned, of course, about maybe 2 to 3 months of them like going around.
I like this really great idea by K-Dubs. I don't know. It says, what about real time? As in, 1 week in the real world, we watch an episode of the BIONICLE TV show, and the next week they're somewhere different, and the Toa said that it took them the week to get there.
The only issue with that is
that.
if we have an instance, because you'd have to resolve whatever the episode's plot is within that time frame. And then at the beginning and end of every episode, they're traveling. Yeah. So if you have an instance where the Toa are fighting a foe like Rakshi or a Rahi, then they have to finish it in that. There can be no...
There would be episodes Yeah, there'd be episodes where there'd be time in between each episode where it's not actually a week's worth of time between those episodes.
And there's also things too where I feel like they would encounter adventures while they're traveling, and that's an important part too. We want to give the idea, and the Lord of the Rings, the entirety of that trilogy is almost traveling. Basically, they travel from one end, they travel from the Shire to Mordor. So that journey is part of the whole experience, is part of the whole plot. And I feel like I'd like to impart that onto Bionicle as well. Well, part of the things is what happens on the journey, not just the villages, but them going from one place to another.
Yeah.
Bionicle, the journey to
So
fun.
is the scale of
Interacting with
the
the
island
island
like
is
that big
important.
then? Because, I mean, a regular Pacific island does not take that long to travel from town to town. I mean, just...
So we were talking, for an idea in terms of Matanui is supposed to be around the size of Denmark. And we talked a bit about how essentially we did calculations to figure out how big the Matanui robot is, and it's spoilers, it's too big. the Matanui robot
None
just
of it
doesn't
makes
literally makes zero sense when you look at how big Metronui is compared to Matanui, and how big the Matanui head should be, and yada yada yada. But one thing that we should kind of clarify here too is that our frame of reference right now is Texas. Because they chose Denmark because they lived in Denmark and everything. For us, we chose a state. Texas seemed to be a decent amount of time enough, or maybe slightly smaller than Texas, because Texas is big once you get into it. There's a lot of stuff you do in Texas. But just in that kind of space, that's the general size of the island that we want. Where
Isn't Texas bigger than Denmark though?
It is.
Texas is
way
bigger
bigger.
than Denmark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Everything in
didn't
America
we just
is
say that
bigger than a
Matanui?
single country in Europe.
Didn't we just say that Matanui was the size of Denmark and that we wanted an island smaller than Matanui?
That's actually a little bit of a misnomer. Matanui, the island, the concept was the size
the
of Denmark.
concept is the size.
It did not end up that way.
it ended up bigger than that. Okay.
It ended up much bigger than that.
Way bigger. If you look at the actual size, the measurements they give, Matanui is gigantic.
Matanui, the island is, let me see,
Yeah,
possibly larger than the United States in its entirety.
Rip.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. And I also checked, the U.S. is much bigger than Denmark.
Okay.
Texas is the second largest state total size. The only one being bigger is Alaska, which is also another
Pursue
good
Alaska.
size comparison. Although, to
Okay.
be fair, Alaska's much bigger than Texas.
I can get behind Texas though. I like that.
right.
All right. Then.
All right.
So basically,
Makes more
it would take us 2 weeks to get across the island by foot.
I'll
2
say
weeks.
All right, 2 weeks.
give or take a few days, 2 weeks. Yeah.
I think it would take longer than that to get across Texas.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, it would take longer than that. We might actually let me
take
look
like
at
a
the let me
month or
let me
two
look
on
at, let me
that
look at the
bit.
calculations. Let me look at the things
Yeah,
just
it
to
was
make sure, LJ. Because I'm looking at the Matanui
It was like over
Island
a
right
month.
now. On BSO1, it says that the island is 300 miles in length and 151 miles long. And I'm sure Texas. I actually think Texas is way bigger than that. Texas is it takes a while to get across.
Texas is 268,596.46 square miles in total area.
Right, but I looked up length. Texas is 790 miles long, which is way bigger than 303
isn't it?
miles. Yeah, so
Yeah, but what if the Toa can walk faster than humans?
In which case,
Oh my
the
god.
island of Matanui is
no,
actually...
it's too big. It's too big. No, let's we can shrink
Scale
out of
it
it.
down.
Then.
So
Let's scale it down.
Texas is too big.
Texas is too big.
Okay, man. Okay, so that thing I said earlier about Matanui being larger than the United States, completely wrong. Totally wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go down the list. I have the reason now for our international audience that we're comparing this island to one of the U.S. states is because the majority of us here, except for Phweffie, live in the U.S. So it's just an easy frame of
Alex
reference
isn't
for
here
us.
today.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Okay, so I'm
Right.
looking at, and I'll go ahead and link this. List the United States by area.
Right.
And obviously, like I mentioned before, top three, Alaska, Texas, and California in that order. And it just kind of keeps on going down from there.
I wonder how big West Virginia is.
West Virginia?
Because it looks a little bit
West
like in that kind of shape. It's the only one that's kind of like ovally in a sense, you know?
West Virginia, according to this, is the 41st largest state
That's pretty small.
The width is 130 miles. The length is 240 miles.
Okay.
So that's actually not too bad.
That's not bad. That's like, what, half of the Motunui Island?
Right.
Scaled down?
Let me see how long it would take to walk
measurements were for
across.
Motunui.
I wonder how long.
West Virginia. That's a. Never would have picked that out of the U.S. to base an island off of.
Well, I've been to West Virginia one, so it was kind of fresh in my mind, and also because, like, again, it's the only one that's kind of ovally in all these states.
Was it?
It was like just going anywhere. Maine too.
Maine is much smaller. Maine, where are you, Maine?
Well, Maine is smaller in total area. I don't know if like we're wanting directly to have the height and width to be about the same because that's how we're going to compare it to. Right, that's the size we're looking for.
Yeah.
The total area is, I mean, it's useful, but only once we have those two factors. Then we can kind of like compare and be like, all right, it's around, the total thing would be around this big.
I think this might be something we might want to come back to.
I agree. I think we have more important subjects to discuss. We'll come right back.
But this is something I'd like to hear from the community as well. Like, how long do you think it should take? You know, different calculations and a frame of reference if you guys can find it for like how much, you know, like something we can wrap our head around. Probably in the United States about how big something is. That would be great for us. So if you want to suggest in the comments or post on the topic there, we're open to ideas when it comes to the island. Where nothing's aside from the location names and like the regions and stuff, nothing really set in stone there. So let's move on.
Yep.
All right. Do we want to get to our big event?
Do
Let's
it.
talk about religion real quick.
Let's talk about that.
All right, guys. So
Big
A
event.
religious discussion on the
TTV,
podcast.
can we talk about
Religion
okay,
is-
hold the phone. Hold the phone. I want to I don't want to save it, but if we're going to talk about religion, can we talk about like the politics of this world too? And that way I can title this episode BIONICLE G3 Religion and Politics.
Let's talk about something real quick. Let's touch upon something real quick. We haven't set anything in stone. I personally don't want every village to be run by a Turaga.
I don't either.
I feel like that's a lot of people are talking about Kora culture and mentioning El Turaga. I don't think that should happen. I think it should have different governments.
Let's make this fun. Let's see
Yeah, I
what
feel
types
like
of
each
different
region should have a different
hierarchies we
government.
can make.
Right.
You want to make a more fleshed out government rather than a village leader.
Right. And each city could have a different type of government too. Some could be ruled by one person, some could be ruled
some
by
can
like a
be
senate.
dictatorship.
Right. Some could be like you know, one area could be just, you know, by monks.
Did we establish that there isn't
Motara.
one central village in a region? There are multiple different ones, like in Gen 2.
I just
There are multiple
assumed
different ones,
that-
but there is a capital village to be
There
fair.
will be a capital in each region, but there will be multiple villages within each region as well. So it'll be more akin to Gen 2 than it was Gen 1.
Yeah, think about like if you have a city and you have suburbs. You know, the other villages are kind of like suburbs. Around
Essentially,
there.
it'll be like city states almost.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that's important too because the regions and the actual cities they'll have the same name, I believe. Right, we're not coming up with different names for the region and the capital city. Right.
Just be
so
like capital of Mongai. Capital
right,
of
the
East
other
Osaka.
villages might have names. We'll see how many like names we can afford to get them because like I don't know how many total names in Canada.
Take United States cities. Oh yeah, here's the city of Palo Alto over in the
Rather than
The
have
region
the
of fire.
Turaga rather than have the Turaga actually rule the villages and government, Motunui 606 says, personally, I think Turaga should just mean elder. Which is a good way to keep that concept. The elders aren't the people in government, but like they're just respected people. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
why wouldn't you
Possibly.
just call them elders at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. Turaga, we should
Yeah,
save
I
for
think-
anything. If anything,
The
Go
thing
on.
is, when it comes to specialized terms, we're not necessarily dropping them like G2 is, but at the same time, you do want to be a little bit more specific when using them, right? When things are actually a matter of importance, that's when they can get a term. But like something like elder,
right?
There's a word for that in English that we could just use. We don't
Yeah,
need to use Turaga
exactly.
for that. That makes more
Turaga meant
sense.
something different in G1. It meant a specific type of elder and specific leader of a village, and that's why they received the title. I don't mind using the word Turaga as like if we had like a person who ruled over a village and he was called their Turaga. That's a separate issue.
I feel that's something that needs to be
Notorious
shelved
word for
later,
dictator.
given more thought.
Well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
in one village, for example, you could have something like what we have in England, where we have like dukes and duchesses. It's just like they're royal family, but it doesn't have to be like a royal family. It can just be groups of powerful people
Right,
who run
right.
different parts of the Wahi. Like that's and they're highly respected and have a lot of power. That's cool.
Like families, like Game of Thrones, they have like House Martell and House Stark.
Not necessarily families, but just like people who have
Right.
been like chosen as respected people who because that's why I think when I think of Taragas, I think of like really respected, you know, very experienced people who know what they're talking about.
I would like to have different cultures for each region and different the government world building and stuff. But yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
A little bit more Metro Nui-ish in that kind of a way.
Yeah, something just very like it wouldn't be uniform. Not every we wouldn't just decide on the form of government and every region has that form of government. It would be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to make it like a little easier, just think as like the Wahis are like different countries, like almost because they've got all these different ways of doing everything.
Man. BIONICLE G3 politics and religion discussion. Here we go. All right.
Oh my
There you
god.
go.
Now I can't title it this because of the other thing. Yeah.
I hate the fact that you mentioned politics. Now we're talking about that. I want to talk about religion. Screw politics.
I don't really,
Religion is important.
yeah, I don't
So-
really,
This island.
I don't really know too much about either, so I'll just sit. And,
I mean, the one thing that we do
Senpai.
know for the one thing that we do know for sure about what we're going to be doing with G2 or G3 and in regards to our last episode that we kind of touched upon is the elemental gods.
Right.
These are a thing that will be a part of our G3 and they're directly tied into our Toa. We decided that there's like an elemental god for each region. Obviously, we came up with their names too, right? Didn't we do that?
Right, we did. We did. We've already settled on it.
It's pretty obvious. Our elemental god of fire, Ikir. Our elemental god of water was Akita. Yeah. So we're sticking with those names. The creature names will be our elemental gods' names.
Right. And then the Toa. Right.
Which I'm for up until Mellum. Which I still
Oh, get over it.
That sounds fine.
It sounds fine.
A gill.
Ikir Akida.
Oh, by the way,
Ta-da.
we have to figure out something for the regional lightning, which we don't have on the map and we don't have a name for.
Yeah, well, that'll be a whole.
Which we don't have on the map yet.
Yeah, that'll be a whole thing. I do believe someone gave us a suggestion when we initially discussed this off air that the elemental gods do have a like two forms, right? Where they can be like they can embody the creature of fire almost in like a phoenix form, but also take the form of a more humanoid form. Yeah.
To everyone who's seen Moana, you know.
Right. in that sense,
Just think of Maui.
It's in a sense we're fusing the concept of the elemental lords from G1 and the creatures from G2, and also kind of adding a bit of mythologism to them. Mythologism? What?
Right.
So mythologicalism? I don't know.
Mythology?
Yeah, sure.
Mythos.
But like as an adjective. Mythos. There you go.
A good
See, I like
mythos,
that
yeah.
because then
A
you
good
can
mythos is that
represent
they
them
can.
in like stories as like these creatures and stuff, and then they're actually
Right.
Legend beast.
A good mythos could be like
Legend
they can
Right.
like
Or, like,
communicate
the
with
Greek
the
gods.
world through the form of their creature.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe like each region has like a mascot of sorts, almost like the phoenix, for instance,
Right.
for the
Right,
the
yeah.
The
fire.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yes, the Order of the Phoenix that they use as like their way of doing honor to
Doing
the god of
stuff.
fire, Akir.
Worshipping.
So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Now the way they the way they connect to the Toa, our elemental gods are gods. That's the thing there. They are gods. The Toa are spirits that are essentially tools of the gods, right? I think that's sort of what we're thinking.
Right. They were people who were like gifted abilities or gifted this rank, essentially, this title of this hero, the Toa, throughout the
They
ages.
sound like they sound a lot like paladins. If you've ever like played WoW or anything like that, they like.
Wow.
Hey, Invi, get on in.
Never played WoW.
Envy, hey,
You're a
yeah,
chief
contribute.
WoW contributor.
They're like warriors, like in favor of like some gods.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, it's like a champion chosen by the gods to wield the power of their spirit, their elemental spirit, in times of need. So, it's essentially when the gods realize that their world is in danger. They call upon someone that they feel is worthy of the power of Tahu to become the next Tahu. and
Now
that
Times
is
are dark.
Feel the power.
And time to dark and all hope
and that is
seems
how that's
lost.
decided. So essentially, the Toa will act almost as like the connection
When times
like
are
the
dark and all
mouthpiece of
hope
the
seems
elemental
lost.
Right, they're
those who
essentially
call
yes, they're
upon
like the
spirits
mouthpiece of the gods.
elements, if
It's
they
like
be
the connection between the physical world and the
of
spiritual
their-
world.
the power of the Toa.
Thanks, man.
Yes, Van.
And feel the power.
Real quick,
Feel the power.
clarification, Vark. I nearly called you Tahu.
Sure.
I don't know why.
I am worthy of Tahu.
Nice. Clarification: what level of sentience are these spirits? Once they are
Toa spirits or the elemental gods?
the Toa spirits.
Okay, because the gods are fully sentient.
Yeah, figured.
They're gods.
Right.
The Toa
Part of the
spirits. The Toa spirits aren't really sentient. They're spirits. They're more of an essence.
They're like Mufasa.
Almost.
Well, here, put it this way.
Mufasa was sentient, though.
Mufasa was pretty sentient.
Here,
He was kind of.
let me provide you
I
with
don't know.
a.
I mean, he kind of loses his rocker after he dies, and he shows up in the sky.
let me provide you with a
Simba.
scenario here. So let's say a Toa's in the middle of combat. They get knocked out. In their head, do they have a conversation in their mind with the spirit of Tahu,
No.
the spirit of Gali?
No.
No.
They can't. They don't talk. They don't necessarily have a mind of their own. The spirits themselves are just manifestations of the elements.
So they never talk at all.
No, they're a spiritual form of the elements, casted down by the gods to to attach itself to a chosen champion. That champion, with the power of the Toa spirits, becomes the Toa. So it's the combination of the chosen champion and the Toa spirit together makes the Toa. That person becomes Tahu. So a Toa spirit isn't necessarily a full. It's not. I would say it's not the full Toa, right? It's not a full Tahu. It's not a complete Tahu. It needs the champion chosen by the Elemental Lord to be Tahu.
So there's never like an angel and demon on your shoulder kind of a deal.
No.
What if? I mean, okay. So if we had a thing where like I like the concept beforehand of the Toa being able to visit the shrine or the stuva and kind of communicate with somebody. Would that be the elemental gods or the Toa
Yes.
spirit?
They would communicate with the elemental gods.
Okay.
Neat.
Should there be something tying in with the lineage, the same way that Avatar has, for example, where you could?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how we should go about that, because I was wondering this too, because obviously there's going to be some mystery surrounding the past Toa and how they interact with the island, and I'm wondering how we want our new Toa to go about that. Because I thought it was actually kind of a genius part of this idea I found, was that we can incorporate the amnesia-ish storyline of G1 and G2 without actually having to give our Toa amnesia. So they don't know their full history as Toa, but they do know their full history as the Matoran before they became Toa.
Right.
Well, they don't lose themselves, but they
Right.
also have a lot to discover about themselves too.
Right. Kind of like, I mean, you're gifted these abilities. You kind of like, you can be taught them over time, but it's like, the Matoran characters, who they were beforehand, is very important. Right.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, we use quote-unquote amnesia. They don't, the moment they become Toa, they don't wake up not having any memories. They're still them as Matoran.
Where am I?
Just given, right, they're given, like, the...
Yeah, no, they know exactly who they are before they became the Toa. It's just
Right.
what their Toa selves did in their past. It's almost like reincarnation in a way. It's like the Toa of the past is them, but it's like it's a different them.
Should they be able to look back upon themselves and unlock memories later down the line?
Yes, I think part of the lesson that they will go into as Toa is figuring out how their past selves were able to solve problems and incorporate that into the current problem. I think that'd be an important part of their character. However, I'm not sure if they should regain memories per se or not.
Right, or like just...
Would they look back to a specific Toa in their lineage, or
maybe the last
first,
one that
like
handled
the first
the problem?
one or the last one, that kind of a deal?
See, like
Probably the last one.
The last one, I think. Okay, so here,
it'd be
let me...
they'd be
Go on.
really powerful, and it'd be very helpful if they were able to look back, because then they would gain the knowledge of the past Toa lineage, which each generation will get more and more powerful, basically.
Well,
they would get stronger and stronger as they went on, sure.
Yeah.
Right. So, what if, I'll pitch this, what if the previous incarnation, the previous after Toa, thousands of years ago, were the Toa Metro, and like in the sense, like Vakama was the Matoran who eventually became Tahu, who had the previous mantle Tahu.
Is Vakama still a factor in the story?
He
Are
wouldn't
you
be
sure you
in
want
this
to cut off Vakama?
Well, like a Vakama-like character.
I think so, personally. I feel like that's a good way to...
If we're not doing the village elders, then like there's two halves of who the Turaga Toa Metro characters are. They're either the village elders or they're the prior Toa.
But I mean, we also haven't...
like one or the other.
They don't necessarily need to be the village elder to still be in high political power of their region, though.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Like, since we haven't fully set up our politics yet for each region, I'm not sure we should cut off the name Vakama just yet.
Okay. What if we tied that into like previous?
I'm for the idea though. I like that. I want to save it just in case we want to use it somewhere else though.
No, I totally understand that. That's that was my thing when Eljay suggested the thing of like having the like Jalar and Holly and or the Chronicles Company be the Matoran that end up becoming the Toa. I like those names a lot. These are established characters. We shouldn't we should still save them. So I get what you're saying with this one. Yeah. Maybe we could use lesser known ancient Toa names like Lekon or Lesovic or
you're kind of stretching at that point.
Well, that's what we want, right? We want names that are stretching so that we don't have to use current names that have meaning in canon.
What are we looking for names?
So the Lekon, Lesovic, like Helrix, or like just
and these would be for
the Toa of the past.
The Toa,
the past Tahu. Like Lekon was the last Tahu before our new Tahu.
I mean, I suppose that could work.
It's about the only
if we had
applicable
to name them,
situation
which
we'd use
I don't
those
necessarily
names.
think we do.
Yeah, it seems like more. It seems like more of like a little Easter egg thing for like prior fans.
It's like a graphic novel 2 situation where they gave names to the entire like lineage of protectors.
We could. Oh well, actually, do you want to get into that? Do you want to mention that real quick, Fire?
I'll go find them real quick. But to put it this way, I don't remember them off the top of my head.
Are you talking about the names of the Matoran?
The names of the Matoran, yeah.
Right. So we decided that our new Tahu, his name as a Matoran before he became the Toa was Narmoto. And our new Liwa, her name before she became the Toa was Vizuna.
Was Breeze.
Natalie Breeze.
You did.
Reincarnated again to become a true hero.
If you really
throw in the Pure Factory stuff too while you're at it.
Well, I mean, like, so the idea was that, like, okay, the reason why I'm against the Chronicles Company or like the Nika essentially becoming is because they are established characters, established names. We can still use them, and they still could mean something. Protectors really weren't given a character, but they are recognizable to an extent because of their
there's no baggage with their names, but there's also things that can be adapted with them as well. For instance,
they're recognizable, but
they are champions chosen by lineage throughout time, so that's a part that's being adapted from G2 into G3. So the Protector as a role is almost being adapted into the Toa as a role. So
we could use the ancient Protector names.
There's a nice little connection there.
About those.
Yeah, that might work.
Yeah.
Those names
Ugano, Owaki, Mamuk, Kirato,
Mamuk.
Itoku, and Agarak.
Yo, Mamuk!
There's some of the most complex, convoluted names in both generations.
Listen, like I said, I can't remember them off the top of my head. If you want to use them
because they weren't
for the prior
important.
Toa, I mean, that's your prerogative.
So, while we're on the topic of our Matoran destined to be Toa, do we want to go ahead and reveal the thing?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
Depends on if you want to use that thumbnail.
I mean, yeah. Listen, here's the thing. I want to do we want to do them individually and talk a bit about the designs, or do you want to do the whole thing?
No, I don't think we have time to talk about the designs individually, and I don't think we need to either.
Okay, all right. In that case, I'll post this. I'll post.
Get ready for hype, guys! Everybody, put on your seatbelts, buckle up, and prepare for the wild.
All right. So remember how last week we decided that we kind of unveiled one of the Toa designs. We have one other Toa design to show you that we kind of came up with this week. Just kidding. It's
one
all
other one.
Yeah, just one.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Prepare yourselves for polarizing reactions. Prepare.
They are slightly now in the image I
are,
posted. They are like they are slightly watermarked. If you see a TTV like somewhere in the armor, and you're like, "That's weird. Why did they incorporate that in there?" That's not part of the actual design. It's just like a watermark.
No,
Just in
you
case.
can't.
They all
By
have
the way.
TTV
The
tattooed
last
on
Toa
them.
Liwa, it was Eljay. The last.
I'm
Tahu's
just
bar.
saying. I don't know how many people are listening to the podcast right now before they go on the message boards and are like, "Oh, how come there's TTV in Kopaka's armor? What is, So
So, Var, you
So,
pretty
Baka's
much
got
made
a
all
little
of these.
side-
With that.
So-
What could this mean?
Give some insight into the development process and some of the struggles you went through for a few of these.
Well, I mean, I think the important thing to get out of the way first is these are our final designs, quote unquote, in the sense that as far as the design of the Toa, this is pretty much what we're sticking with. However, this
Right.
is not the final artwork.
Right.
X is going to be working on our final decal printable artwork, so a lot of things here will be marginally changed. Some
Maybe.
things might be adapted a little bit better to fit on the minifigure.
right, but essentially this is what we want to go forward with System Bionicle and the canon.
Essentially, the color layering and the overall design. This is pretty much going to be our final designs. So there'll be some minor changes likely going forward, but these are pretty much what we're going with. As far as the actual figures themselves go, they're pretty much. Obviously, we started with Tahu when it came to designing them, but they all. For all of them, I tried to incorporate elements of different concepts that the community has, presented over time throughout the course of this project.
Right.
Namely, Ragdoll, Umatu.
Yeah,
Ragdoll, Umatu,
namely
Zeros.
Ragdoll,
Right.
and Omatu.
Those are our three main
Ragdoll was
inspirations.
a major inspiration for the heads.
Definitely.
I don't think any of us really had a great idea of how the heads would work before Ragdoll came along.
Right.
And then Ragdoll came along and was like, "Yep, that's perfect." So we definitely adapted that concept into our designs there. Zeros was pretty inspirational as far as color schemes were concerned. Some of them are a little closer to Zeros' color schemes than others. Some of them worked really well in Zeros' style, not so much in my style.
Right.
Some changes were some changes were made in regards to that.
Changes are changed.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything. I think Umatu was pretty good with the tribal design, so we wanted to incorporate
Right.
a lot of tribal aesthetic that really kind of showed off the element itself. Kopaka's got a lot of sharp angles, spikes, and stuff to represent the ice, and Golly's got
Tahu's got like the flowing fire pattern.
Right.
With the orange.
And I mean, Kopaka's cape too. His half cape was very much inspired by Umatu's design of
Umatu,
Kopaka.
yeah.
It was it's like the Captain Phasma cape, so it isn't
As
an
well
existing
as,
Lego piece.
Golly's skirt was inspired by Zeros.
Yes, Golly's skirt
Yep.
as well. Which I really love Golly's skirt.
That's what I
and the
really
pattern
love
on it.
about these. Every one of the Toa, I know this was an important design philosophy. They all have a small, minute, unique quirk. Like Kopaka has the half cape. Tahu doesn't really have one. He's the basic template design. He's Tahu, But Liwa has the full cape. Padu has the shoulder armor. Golly has the skirt. Onu has the bigger figure. So they all have something to make them stand
Tahu's
out.
boring
Onu
now
is
that I
ripped.
look at it.
Tahu
this
is
is-
pretty much the default for sure.
Right. This is the first year Toa. Obviously, as we would get later on, we designed like different armor for them. They'd have like Nuva armor would be the armor placed on top of them, etc. As it went on, but as of right now,
Eventually they'll get upgrades.
right. But right now, I feel this
I
is
saw
a
a few
great
comments
base
that were
form.
maybe Tahu should be like the only one to have some armor. But I didn't really want to do that just because the armor is kind of like how the upgrades are going to be done in the future. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Someone, Prentice, actually shouted out the logo art as well. Which thank you. That's my only contribution to this. Var basically Var's done the legwork when it comes to all these designs. He would post them and we'd make slight critiques and he'd change them based off that.
Cool logo.
But yeah,
Yeah, a lot of them
that's all
went
I
through a
got.
lot of variations. I think
a lot of iterations.
the ones that were pretty much the first iteration that I feel like was strong enough that we basically kept was Oh, wow. I was about to say Lewa, but now that I think about it, no, Lewa went through a lot of iterations too. Golly, I think, is the only one that I didn't really change much.
Golly was the one
The
that we
only
saw.
thing was the eyes, from what I recall.
Right.
Yeah, everyone else went through dozens of iterations. Pohatu specifically went through so many changes.
Oh my god.
He was the
that
worst.
I honestly got tired of looking at him and was like, I want to cut Pohatu out of Bionicle again.
What color even is that Nuva symbol that like you ended up going with?
It's the same yellow as Kopaka's, I believe.
Okay, so is that just like Mata yellow, like regular flat bright yellow?
I wouldn't say it's a Lego color, no, because it's just a print. So I wasn't really looking at Lego colors as far as plastic colors.
It might not even be a real color in the final
I
design.
mean, it's yellow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has a name.
Yeah, it's some kind of frame of reference.
Right.
Between like the shades.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is what it looks like.
Yeah, Pohatu was probably the best example of a style that worked, or a look that worked in another style, but not this one. Because Var, you tried to incorporate a lot of different elements from other designs, but eventually you just had to kind of
Tricky.
simplify it a little
I kind of had to do my own thing with Pohatu,
Right.
yeah.
The thing I like...
A lot of the designs that were there before looked great in certain styles, but not so much when it was like actually like ready to be printed.
The thing I like about this style per se too, Var, I mean, this isn't your normal illustration style, but this is using a minifigure template, so you can actually see what it would look like. You know, a lot of them have in the drawn styles, they have them in different positions. They have arms crossed or different color holds or anything. This is as close as you'll get to what the actual template can look like for now, up until X prints them out. So
Exactly.
Oh no!
There's a bunch of little subtle.
Lewa's mask went through a lot of different changes too. Most of those I don't think you guys actually saw. I posted.
Yeah, I heard you I didn't hear you. I read your discussion in Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of different mirror designs. Eventually, the mirror changed a lot once we decided that Lewa was in fact going to be a girl too. So like I kind of adjusted that so that the chin was de-emphasized a bit and shrunken down more so than the original design looked. We'll probably end up posting like some iterations later down the line of our mask designs. But
Totally.
a lot of work went into Lewa's mirror in the sense that I worked with X really closely at trying to get it to look like something that had actually be made and not broken. Some of these masks, I feel like I might have to go back and tweak a little bit, especially in Tahu's How, for instance, because I feel like of them all, Lewa's is one of the strongest in terms of something that I feel could actually be produced without breaking.
Onua's
Maybe Tahu's cheek holes need to be cut down in half.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's
right.
what I'm thinking too.
Onua's, I feel it could be made at any point in time. Be okay.
Yeah,
Golly's,
Anua's could be made.
I don't know about
Golly's,
Golly's.
maybe.
We might tweak some of that too. There might be some slight tweaks going forward with the design, and we'd like to
Pohatu's
see.
is pretty solid.
Like I wouldn't mind seeing what the community had in store too in terms of like slight tweaks to the design. But as far as we're concerned, this is pretty much final. We're not looking for anything too drastically different. I know a lot of people are posting on the boards their own concept and stuff, and that's great. But like going forward, this is what we're looking for in terms of like around the aesthetic that this has, and the template that we have with the male and female.
But for all of them, a lot of thought was put into how they could
A lot
actually
of
be
thought.
produced in real life. So
The colors. By the way, there's a guy who posted on the message boards about his interview. He talked to an actual Lego artist at a Comic-Con. Let me see if I can get his name real quick. But essentially, one of the things he came across is that they only have about 5 colors for printing per thing, and we already kind of paid attention to that beforehand. We were looking into it. Each of the Toa are realistically printed in the sense that they have those 5 colors, including the plastic color that's actually will be printed on. That's all part of the minifigure. So we're no worries about that. That's all very taken care of. We thought about that before. It was the Ring Bear 13 on our boards, for the record, who went and talked to Greg Highland, a minifigure artist. So.
Very nice.
There's a lot of concern with the original Tahu minifigure that there was too many colors. I think a lot of people were forgetting that the red is not a printed color; it's just part of the plastic.
Right. It would be
for most
what
of
it's
these pieces.
printed on.
So. Yeah.
I mean, there's four of our codes: the gray, the blue, the orange, and the black. If you count black as a printed color or as a thing, I don't know if Lego counts black as a color that they print on top of stuff. If they do, that's still only 4 colors in Tahu. On his torso, at least.
Quite right.
Yeah. So yeah, those are our Toa designs. Woohoo!
Enjoy.
Yay.
Now we need to get Rakshi designs up in here.
Yeah.
Return to the Rakshi.
This is what
They're
our
gonna be
Toa...
tricky because they all use like custom. Well, some of them use custom builds like spiders and stuff.
Yeah, that will be tricky.
That will be tricky. We'll have to think about that going forward. Might redesign some aspects of it going forward, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is what our Toa will look like in G3. Woohoo! Yeah. So
All right,
did we?
You guys want to go ahead and end the podcast?
Yeah.
What?
We want to end, or
I
guess
gotta
we won't
go
talk
sleep now.
about- Okay.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Good night.
Yeah.
All
See
right.
ya.
So thank you everybody for listening to TTV Podcast episode 240. As far as topics discussed this week, we would like some feedback on the island, the regions, maybe, I don't know, some things to ponder would be government of the different regions and villages, culture, architecture, we've already spoken about in the past, but like design, different aspects of those. Then we have the religion aspect with the gods and the spirits. I would say give some thought to how the Toa would transport around the island, the size of the island, how long it would take to walk around the island,
Right.
as well as some of the different elemental gods and deities of the island, the different regions, the creatures. I would say give some thought to reusing names from the past and in what type of situations would it be applicable to use terms like Turaga and stuff. We spoke about a lot on this week's podcast. And then give feedback to the Toa designs. Basically, that's the gist of what we spoke about this week. So all in all, pretty good podcast this week. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'd like to take a brief moment to once again reiterate, if you want to be a part of the live studio audience for the podcast, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/the TTV channel. We got a lot of cool stuff over there, and we always appreciate your support. And as far as every week, we like to pick one person to spotlight. This week, I think we will give a spotlight to Magic Ninja 6195. Every week, they come over and participate in the podcast discussions, share feedback. So thank you very much for your support, Magic Ninja, as well as everybody else.
I hate to interject, but just before we actually sign off, I have one more piece of art that I just want to show.
You kill me.
Quiet.
Do it.
Go for it.
Speak up, Ben.
Because, was it for
No,
the past
really, you're
couple of
faint.
minutes, I was just playing around with the falling
Yeah,
canisters.
speak up. You're faint.
Oh.
You're faint.
Oh, dang.
Past couple of minutes, I've been playing around with the idea of falling canisters, so I did that.
Nice. Get ready for Toa Fall.
That looks cool. Prepare for Toa Fall.
Or is it like an ODST?
Oh, I love it.
Basically.
Yeah, or Titanfall. Oh, man. Okay, I'm sold. That looks cool.
I'm gonna fix it up so you can put it in the video, but yeah. Anyway, move on.
Oh, thanks. Alright, farewell, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Meso.
I'm Verderan.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Ven.
I'm Phweffie.
I'm Prpl.
And I'm Tenebrae Invictus.
And we will see you all next week as we continue our adventure into BIONICLE G3, or BrickOnicle, I suppose. Have a good one, everybody. Farewell.
Goodbye.
See ya. Get out. Shut up.
Shut up so I can end it.